Hi everyone, today I'm just going to have a quick look on how to actually use colour with an acrylic nail. Now as you can see, I've got some Glitter Bells colour, which is one of the colour ranges that I really like. I've got some nice clear powder, and I've got some little disco balls that I'm going to add as a decoration. I've got my favourite brush, Liz Guild brush from CJP, nailsystems.com. And when you're applying a colour to an acrylic nail, what you really need to do is apply the colour as thin as possible. But before you do that, you need to apply a thinnish coat of clear powder, because what that means is that when the client comes back, you can just drill off the colour, just file it away without going back to the natural nail, and it just makes it easier to actually remove it. So I've got my monomer here in my little dappen dish, so I'm just going to wet my brush, and I'm just going to just take off some liquid there, and I'm going to go into my powder, pick up a bead, place it near to the back where the cuticle is. That's what that line's there for. And always remember to keep the finger pointing downwards, so that when you are putting that bead at the back, it's not going to flow back towards the actual cuticle and flood, what we call flood the cuticle with acrylic, because the last thing you want is product overlapping onto that cuticle, because that will, you know, really kind of well, it's just a no-no. You don't do it, okay? So I'm just putting this thin layer of acrylic onto here. I'm just going to brush down. I'm using very flat strokes with my brush so that I get that smooth finish onto the nail. So I'm just going to place that over the end like that. Just brush that backwards into the nail. Just scoop off the sides. And there's our first application. And you just go along all your nails and just do this. Okay, always make sure there's no product under there. So it's just a thin coat of acrylic. And then you'd carry on along your nails and just do that on all of your nails. Then we need to let that dry, but by the time you've done the one hand and you go to the other hand, by the time you come back, these will be ready to put on your colour. Now obviously what's really important is your nail prep. Your nail prep before you do any of this is absolutely vital if you don't want to get lifting. And if you look at my video on nail prep, you will see how to do that. So I'm just going to let that dry for a little bit, because I'm only doing one nail, and we'll come back in a second. Right, so I've got my base layer on now. So now I'm just going to put the colour on. Now whenever you're applying colour, always apply it as thinly as possible, so that when the client comes back in, you can just drill off the colour or file it off back to the clear powder underneath, and that way you're not going to get anywhere near the natural nail or do any damage. It just makes it a little bit easier to do. Saves you soaking off the nails and starting again. So I'm going to pick up some colour, tip the finger down as usual, as like I always say, pop it onto there and just pat that out from side to side, and then just draw it down the nail. And I usually wipe my brush as I come off. That's just to make sure I'm not putting blobs of acrylic that's stuck onto the brush back into the wrong place. So just work your way down the nail, just brush it out. See, there's nothing complicated about it, it's quite easy to do. Just keep your brush nice and flat when you're working, so that you're not dragging off all the colour with a brush that's kind of upright. I'm going to brush this back now into here and just, so you don't use your brush like this, keep it nice and flat. So just look over your nail all the time, just looking for any areas that quite haven't reached the saturation of colour on the nail that you want. These Glitter Bells products really spreads beautifully. Spreads really nice and easy. Okay. I just feel it needs maybe a little bit more at the back. I'm not going to put loads on. It's just to get that depth of colour that you're trying to achieve. So just go along all your nails and just do that. I've put a tiny little bit there. Make sure there's none under here. Now obviously, if you weren't going to put decoration onto the top of this, you just encapsulate all of that with your clear powder, and that's when you can build your structure around the apex or the arch at the same time. So I'm just going to let that dry for a bit, and then we'll put on the decoration that I'm going to use today. Now the decoration I'm going to use today, I'm actually going to use the little disco balls, and these haven't got any acrylic powder in here, so I'm going to have to pick up some clear acrylic powder just to be able to pick those up. So let's get my brush wet. Take some liquid off. Pick up a small amount of acrylic, and then just pop those onto the nail wherever you feel you want them to be. So you've got some time just to spread them out and give them a bit of interest. So like, you do have to work a little bit quickly, but it's not a massive problem. So you can just push them around. Just don't pick them up with too much acrylic, otherwise you'll start making a lumpy nail. A little tiny speck. Put those onto there, and the acrylic that you picked up will allow these to stick to the nail and stop them falling off. And it'd be the same if you're just using a normal glitter. You can pick it up into your glitter, or you can also get glitters that have the acrylic already built into them, which means you don't have to dip into into the clear powder first. So I'm just going to leave that now. Well, I'd be going along all the other nails, wouldn't I? And then by the time you come back, that's set enough so when you put your clear over the top, it's not going to actually pull the disco balls off or the glitter off that you've put onto the nails. So let's just let that, because I'm just doing the one nail, I'm just going to let that dry a bit. So now I'm going to put my clear encapsulation. Keep the finger down. Tap, tap, tap. Just drag it down the nail. And when you're designing nails, what you need to do really is to get some tips like these and just practice your designs. What you should never really be, well, you should never do is to practice designs on your clients, because you want to make sure that you know what you're going to be doing and that it's going to work, because sometimes different colours don't go with other colours and so on. You don't want a disaster when you're working on the client's nails, particularly with acrylic, because once it's on, it's on. Now it's at this point as well where you can build up your strength of the nail, building your arch on the nail and getting your shape. Now you must make sure that all of the glitter is completely encapsulated. Otherwise, when you come to file, you'll just file it away and then you'll have a problem. So there we are, I'm happy with that. So once that's set and dried, I will then start my filing all over. I often get a question of how do I know when my acrylic's set? Well, basically what you do is you just tap it with a wooden handle of your brush or orange stick, and if you get that loud clicking noise, that's an indication that it's now ready to file. So because this is on a little stand here, you can't file them really while it's on these stands. You have to take them off, and then you can then just file up sides like this. I'll usually turn it round and go that way. I'll go along the front. And then basically then I will just file all over. It's a good idea to cover your powder up. You don't want to get bits in there. So then I will just file all over it. If I was working on a real person, obviously I'd be using my electric file. But on these like dummies, you can't do that because you'll find that it'll just keep flying off the stand. When you're making up your samples, designs, so you can show your clients, and then they can choose from the designs that you've got on your board or however you display them. And follow the shape round the nail so you get a nice smooth round shape this way. I usually turn it round then, and then I do this edge here up to where the cuticle is. And as long as you've encapsulated your glitter or decoration that you put on the top, it should stay where it is and you shouldn't file it off. I'll then get my a white block, which I don't seem to have here. I'll go and get one. So this is a white block, and this is a 100 grits. Go. And then all I've got to do now is just to top coat this, and all the design will pop back out. So I'm just going to wipe that over with a bit of acetone, just like this. I'm going to get my top coat, which is a no wipe top coat, which is what I always use. Switch my lamp on. And then as I go over this, you'll see that all the glitter will come back, or in this case the disco balls. They'll have this reflection, which when you filed over the nail, you see they go kind of like dull, but they will all pop back. Now to get that into there, what I do is I place it on top of a file or something like that, and carefully just drop it inside and put it on for 60 seconds. Top coats are always 60 seconds. So now I'm going to remove it, and there's our finished nail with all that beautiful disco balls encased within the nail itself. So I hope you enjoyed that, and have a little play yourself, see what you can come up with, what designs you can do, and I'll sign off now. So it's John from the Professional Nail School and Beauty Academy, and hopefully I'll see you again in the very near future. Bye for now.